Two fools. Well, good morning, good Monday. If you haven't floated away, if you're here on the West Coast, good morning. Now, it looks like I'm overdressed and trying to look cool. No, I'm overdressed because I'm trying to keep warm. It's chilly here, and we're surrounded by water, and there's water under the house, and it is very chilly, so it's coming up through the floor. At least the chill is at the moment. If it will keep raining for almost 2 more weeks here. It's kind of serious, but I'm sure you have serious weather problems of your own, so I won't. It's hard not to try to burden you with our troubles, but it's what is occupying our mind. So I'm begging the landlady to pump out our backyard before it gets worse, because it's continually raining here, and it will come into the house soon, and I don't know what we're going to do then. I don't even know where we would go in our car, so it's fucked. And I hope we're not fucked. But does that stop the meeting of the Guild of Sequestered Mystics? No. As a matter of fact, it's a welcome respite from stress. Anyway, what I'm going to do here, and I'll probably do it for the next few days, a continuing series here, if you will, and it concerns the Thoth Tarot, and I know many of you are familiar with, and for many of you, the Thoth Tarot is your deck of choice. And there are many others that just appreciate the Thoth Tarot and use something else. And those are just admire the Thoth Tarot as a magical device in and of itself, a piece of high magical art. And of course, the primary text for the Book of Thoth, the supreme, this is where the buck stops with commentary on the Book of Thoth, is Crowley's own Book of Thoth. Okay. Of course, many others, including myself, have written commentaries on the Book of Thoth too. But there's one aspect, even if you're familiar with the Book of Thoth and have been using the Thoth cards for years and years and years, you'll know that one of the things that distinguish the Thoth Tarot from the more standard decks of the day, like the Waite-Smith deck or the Tarot of Marseille or something like that, what distinguishes the Thoth deck from, say, the Golden Dawn Tarot are specific thelemic images and concepts. And these came, obviously the Book of Thoth and the Thoth Tarot was written late in Crowley's life, when he was putting things in perspective and agreeing and disagreeing with things that characterized his life to that point. But one of the main things that make a thelemic deck thelemic are the concepts and images that were revealed to Crowley during the period of time when he was scrying the 30 Enochian Aethers with Victor Newberg out there in the North African Sahara, and chronicled in his book the vision, and the voice. This is where we get the concept of Babylon. This is where we get the concept of Corona zone and the in other words, how Thelema, the new consciousness of Thelema, looks at the traditional spiritual landmarks and icons, and how the Thelemic point of view has tweaked those concepts, and many of them come from other sources besides just tarot sources, including the vision and the voice. And for that reason, in the appendix, or one of the appendices of the Book of Thoth, we have a whole bunch of supplementary material, reprints, if you will, of things from, let's see here, like from Little Essays Toward Truth, and from The Vision and the Voice. These are to help color your understanding of the Thoth cards. So, in other words, here follow certain essays upon matters germane to this essay. Essay meaning the Book of Thoth. Their perusal may assist the full appreciation of its meaning. And so he starts with the Fool. He doesn't do all of the trumps. So don't worry, we're going to be here for 22 more straight days. Indeed, he's got so much about the Fool, that's probably going to have talk more about the Fool tomorrow. But that's what I'm going to do. We're going to take the Book of Thoth and the Thoth Tarot, we're going to take its appendix out and share with you some material that Crowley has to say that's pertinent to each of these cards that perhaps you may never have read before. If that sounds like a plan, I'm going to go ahead and start with what he has to say about the Fool. And it's in a chapter, if you will, from Crowley's Little Essays Toward Truth, called Silence. Now remember, the Fool is also Harpocrates, the Egyptian god of silence. Of all the magical and mystical virtues, of all the graces of the soul, of all the attainments of spirit, none has been so misunderstood, even when at all apprehended, as silence. I got to digress for a second. I don't know if the Fool card was one of the first cards that Frieda Harris started painting. I'm not sure. I don't think it was. But when it came time for her to start painting the Fool card, she made several different attempts that Crowley allowed her to get quite far into the project. I mean, sometimes he would just reject things on sketches and things like that. But some things she actually got to be full-fledged color cards before he said, no, I don't want that one, I want that one over there. Well, the Fool card was one of those situations where she painted several full versions of the Fool card. And one of them, and you can find it you look it up on the internet, you can see it, it's charming, it's delightful, it's adorable, because it's Harpo Marx. The unmistakable image of Harpo Marx, who, of course, in the 30s and 40s, which is, the Harris and Crowley's time that they knew each other, was still like a superstar of motion pictures and comedy. But Harpo Marx, his character was silent. He just beeped a horn, and his whole thing was silence, like Penn and Teller. I think that's it. And he was lusty, and he was always chasing girls. Okay, and he was silent, and you could tell that of the Marx brothers, the four Marx brothers, that Harpo was the most foolish, but the most spiritually profound of all of them. Groucho was very mercurial, and Chico was very, very earthy, but Harpo was sublime because he was silence. And Harpo are the first letters of the Greek Harpocrates, Harpocrates. Anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. I'm wasting our time this morning. It would not be possible to enumerate the common errors. Nay, it may be said that to think of it at all itself is an error. For its nature is pure being. Talking about silence. Its nature is pure being. That is to say, nothing. So that it's beyond all intellection. Seldom use that word. Or intuition. It's beyond that. It's beyond ruach, in other words. Thus then, the utmost of our essay can be only a certain wardenship, as it were a tiling of the lodge wherein the mystery of silence may be consummated. For this attitude, there is sound traditional authority. Harpocrates, god of silence, is called Lord of Defense and Protection. I got to digress again here. When beginning magicians learn and start to memorize and practice the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. Okay, at least as I was taught by the thelemic, interpretation of coming from Rigardi and Seckler and McMurtry. Not to say that they are the be-all and end-all of things, but the idea of the banishing ritual is usually done in a modular way as the first opening act of maybe a 5-act magical operation. It's just there's purification, there's consecration, then there's banishing, okay? And, or mix match any of those in whatever your tradition honors. That the whole reason that you do the banishing ritual of the pentagram, because people think, oh, it's a defense to get away all the evil spirits, it's cleansing. Banish first, because they're all out to get you. No. In the banishing ritual of the pentagram, or the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, as most of us in this tradition are taught, we use one of the two signs of Horus as we project our pentagrams, project the god names in each of the quarters, and we use the positive or the projective or the pointy, the active Horus brother, okay? And we do that 4 times, okay? But that sign is only half of a sign. And the second half of the sign is the sign of Harpocrates. Now you can use your thumb, use your forefinger, whatever. From Golden Dawn immemorial, you can always go, active and passive spirit, active and passive spirit, project, receive, okay? But even besides that, I mean, some people are taught just to do the projective things in the 4 quarters, and many are taught to after you do Yehovah in the east, then you follow it up like that too. What you prefer, what makes sense to you. But the whole reason, when the whole ceremony is over, and as you've already invoke the gods, invoke the archangels, place the archangels, got your stars planted in the 4 corners, what do? Well, later on in your magical career, when you do magic instead of banishings, you go on with your ceremony. That's the foundation that you stand on. You continue on, just like the opening of a Masonic temple. You open it up to do business of some kind. Well, until you got business to do, or before you even know what business you need to do, as you're learning your pentagram rituals, the purpose of your ritual at the very end, to seal the whole thing off, is the assumption of the God form Harpocrates, or Hour-Par-Krot. You've made at least 4 of the signs of Horus, got him covered. The sign of Harpocrates, his twin, seals it all off with silence. And the assumption of the God form, the visualization of it enveloping your whole body, and you, for a moment, stand as a classic statue or image of Harpocrates. For that golden moment, you are Harpocrates, and you embody the God of Silence, who is also called the Lord of Defense and Protection. It's not the God names, the Hebrew God names or the Enochian God names or whatever you use. It's not that that's protecting you. It's not the archangels that are protecting you. They're standing there. What's protecting you is you as the embodiment of Harpocrates. That's making you the Lord of Defense and Protection. But I digress. But his nature is by no means that negative and passive silence which the word commonly connotes. He is the all-wandering spirit, the pure and perfect knight-errant, who answers all enigmas and opens the closed portals of the king's daughter. But silence in the vulgar sense is not the answer to the riddle of the Sphinx. It is that which is created by that answer. For silence is the equilibrium of perfection. So that Harpocrates is the omniform, the universal key to every mystery soever. The Sphinx is the puzzle or puzzle, the feminine idea to which there is only one complement, always different in form and always identical in essence. This is the signification of the picture of the god. It is shown more clearly in his adult form as the Fool of the Tarot and as Bacchus, diffuse, and without evocation when he appears as Baphomet. When we inquire more closely into his symbolism, the first quality which engages our attention is doubtlessly his innocence. Not without deep wisdom, he is called twin of Horus, and this is the Aeon of Horus. It is he who sent forth Aiwass, his minister, to proclaim its advent. The four powers of the Sphinx is silence. The fourth power of the Sphinx is silence. To us, then, who acquire this power as the crown of our work, it will be of the utmost value to attain his innocence in its fullness. I got to do this again here. It's understandable, especially with beginning magicians, that you worry if you're being cursed. You get a lot of this in other magical communities. Oh, someone has cursed me. Oh, I think I've got bad luck here. Oh, I think it must be a curse. Can you imagine how wildly cursed, the whole world might feel with our climate emergency here? And people a lot of times ask me for what ritual can I do to protect myself from all of these negative curses, perhaps. How do I battle this? What ritual can I do to battle this? And I never give them, I tell them, oh, do this pentagram ritual, or draw a circle here, or oh, invoke the gods, or I never suggest that. The first thing I suggest, or the first thing I tell them, there is no greater defense than your own innate, absolute innocence. Your innocence is your shield. Your innocence is your coat of mail. Your innocence, your inherent, absolute, perfect innocence is your protection. Okay. The fourth power of the Sphinx is silence. To us, then, who aspire to this power as the crown of our work, it will be the utmost value to attain his innocence in its fullness. Opera lovers, if you like Parsifal, you'll like Harpocrates. We must understand, first of all, that the root of moral responsibility on which man stupidly prides himself as distinguishing him from the other animals is restriction, which is the word of sin. Indeed, there is truth in the Hebrew fable that the knowledge of good and evil brings forth death. To regain innocence is to regain Eden. We must learn to live without the murderous consciousness that every breath we draw swells the sail which bears our frail vessels to the port of the grave. We must cast out fear by love, seeing that every act is an orgasm. Their total issue cannot be but birth. Also, love is the law. Thus, every act must be righteous and truth, righteousness and truth. By certain meditations, this may be understood and established. And this ought to be done so thoroughly that we become unconscious of our sanctification. For only then is innocence made perfect. This state is, in fact, a necessary condition of any proper contemplation of what we are accustomed to consider the first task of the aspirant, the solution of the question, what is my true will? For until we become innocent, we are certain to try to judge our will from the outside, whereas true will should spring, a fountain of light, from within, and flow unchecked, seething with love, into the ocean of life. And that's where we're going to end it today. And we'll talk more about silence tomorrow, and we will be continuing our taking the appendix out of the Book of Thoth. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Hold a good thought for Constance and me and everybody who is struggling at this time to try to keep their heads above water. Literally. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.